Hey everyone, and welcome back. And if you've been following along, we are working on this cool little checklist. Once again, I always advise that if you're not really comfortable, it's best to probably follow along with me and either watch or you can do it at the same time. Sometimes I am moving a bit quickly, so I am sorry for that, but I'm trying to make sure that everyone gets an understanding of how to design it and how to make sure that these designs pop when we actually prototype them. So if you are feeling also extra ambitious, go ahead and try your own take on this checklist. It doesn't need to look exactly like this, but if you are going to try something new, try to use some of these techniques, whether it's like, using this dash to swipe out the name or popping up a confetti, because that's what we're going to do again here on a smaller scale. It's going to make it pop your designs. So go ahead and if you're feeling ambitious, do it yourself as well and share some of those designs with us on Discord. Share some of those designs with us even within the Udemy questions. If you have any questions on how to get things working the way you like them, because as you can tell, I'm using a lot of different things like after delay to make sure that once something triggers, it keeps on triggering the following frames. So let's get right into it. So as you can tell, we have 3 states, but I'm sure by now everyone understands that we're gonna have to create more. And that is just the way it is. And let's jump in there. So one thing I wanna do here is we could link these frames together, but they're not going to look perfect. So I'm going to actually start with this frame being my first frame and I'm going to duplicate it. So I hold Option and Shift. And I am going to make this little dash very, very small. So I'm going to make it shrink like this. Because what's going to happen is it's going to shrink, then jump right into this kind of slice. Okay. And then in the next screen, what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this all over again. And we're going to take this dash. And we'll just, we're going to actually just take all of this one. Let's remove this. One thing that we do realize now is that if we're going to animate something and want that same thing to transform or move in any which way, they need to be named the same. So I have that one named the same as this, as dash. And now I've introduced these new things, these confettis. So we're going to do something pretty interesting as well here. One thing I forgot to get was I forgot to get the very top confetti. So we're going to pop that over here. Perfect. We can move that out a bit. Actually, let's just keep it the same, just for simplicity's sake. And we are going to shrink this down, similar to what we saw in the other Delight video that we did with the modal. We want this to kind of pop up. So we're going to hold and Shift and Option. We got it down to 2. Can we get down to 1 and 1? Here we go, 1 and 1. We're going to do that, and we are going to, let's remove the opacity, put it to 0. And we're going to do the same thing for these confetti things that we have here, these little confetti balls. We're going to do that. Then we're going to do this and make them a 0. But one thing we do want to make sure is that we are in line. Oops. I think that's fine. We can always fine tune the replacement. So right now we have that screen selected. Now, what we're going to do here is we're just going to make sure that that is fine. Then we have our following screen. And I'm sure you all know we need one more screen over here. And so one thing that we haven't done, we need to take these confettis once again, and we're gonna put them on this screen. But we're gonna do something different. We're gonna do the same thing that we actually did within the first example that we created with the modal. We're gonna push those up, and then we're gonna hide them. So, you know, we have this beautiful design where these confetti pieces will blast off into the sunset. And then we're gonna select them all, and we're gonna press 0 on the opacity. Perfect. And then we can start to prototype this. So we have, oh no, we have all these different flows. We can remove that, boom. So let's just go back and remove these flows. Sometimes it does create them automatically, which is a bit problematic, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so we have this. What we want to do is we want to make sure that when we click on this, it's going to go to that. And we can keep this really simple. We're going to do smart animate, and we're going to keep it tight because these small little interactions shouldn't last very long. And now this is where we're going to, once again, employ our after delay. So 50, 75, we're just going to work with it and see what works for us. We may not get it on the first try, and that's totally fine. Okay, so we have, this is when the confetti pop happens, so we can spend a little bit more time here. So I've set it to 150 because we do want to, you know, when you cross something off of a list, I know this is probably just like apples, it's a grocery list or whatever, but when you do cross something off a list, like a to-do list, and that's when where I can see this becoming much more of an appropriate interaction. But, you know, for the sake of apples, I love apples, so I'm gonna roll with that. Okay, so let's actually test this out. Okay, so we have our apples. Here we go. Wow, that looks amazing. So one thing we didn't do was this. I noticed it right away. We didn't set it to after delay. So let's try that again. That was pretty beautiful. So that dash slides into actually cut the apples out. It is done. You have bought apples for you and your family, or just yourself. It doesn't matter. And we want to congratulate you with a nice little check and explosion there. And now if we want to actually just, you know, loop this interaction, we can do so pretty easily. So we are just going to, I duplicated the first one because I want to make sure that everything goes back to normal nicely. So we're going to just on click, we'll navigate to there. 100 milliseconds seems fine. And then, you know, just start the process all over again. This screen is probably not even needed, but we can keep it for now. So let's pretty nice. And there you go. And that is how you stitch together a nice little micro interaction that is very delightful. You know, adding this little bit of pop really kind of brings this to life. And you can do this totally without the actual confetti pop. It's up to you. but I think this suffices for this little interaction. I would love to see what everyone else kind of came up with. I'd like to see how your example turned out. And if you totally want to reuse what we've given you as a resource, it's there for you to reuse, redesign, also to look through like the layer hierarchy to understand exactly how I have taken the time to name everything as properly as I could and layer everything the proper way for these interactions to work. So that is how you make a very simple checklist interaction.